Welcome to the Life Career Roadmap channel. And today I have my special guest, Dr. Carla Boehl. Did I say your name right, Carla?
Look, even I have problems pronouncing it because, as you know, I'm Portuguese. My husband is German, and my German pronunciation isn't the best either. So, but yeah, Bowl will do.
You do the work.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Carla, welcome to the chat here for the Life Career Roadmap. And my first two questions for you is where you come from. You said you are Portuguese, but where you come from in Portugal and what is your professional background?
Yes. So I'm originally from a city called Viana do Castelo, located in the Minho region of northern Portugal. So most people in Australia and so on don't know where it is. It's close to Porto. So Porto is well-known city, and it's about 70 kilometers from Porto on the coast. On the way to Spain, to Galicia in Spain, it's a very popular stop for the peregrines who do the Camino de Santiago,
Santiago.
all the way to Santiago de Compostela. So, yeah, really nice spot. Also for windsurfers and kite surfers because it's a very windy part of the coast with the waves of the Atlantic Ocean. So very nice spot. I was just on vacation there, so it's all very fresh in my mind and in my heart. So I left Portugal in 1998, almost 25 years ago. So 9th of November, I will be celebrating 25 years of being a migrant or a
In
Portuguese
many places
around the
around the
world. I've lived in different places, so and now in Australia for 18 years. My
world.
background is civil engineering. That's what I've studied initially at the Faculty of Engineering at University of Porto. And then I also completed a Master of Science in Water Resources Engineering and Management at the University of Stuttgart in Germany. And that's also where I then completed my PhD in water and environment. I wrote my thesis around decision support systems for water supply and sanitation. That's really my expertise. And yeah, that has allowed me to travel the world.
Well, let's go.
I lived in Belgium, in Germany, so different countries in Europe. I lived in America for a short while.
Yeah.
And yeah, now Australia, initially Queensland, and now WA.
Okay, wonderful. So, Carla, let's go back to the time when you were a kid in Viana del Castello.
Viana.
Viana del Castello. So, as Brazilian, we came as the Portuguese, right? Colonization. So, despite we speak the same language, we have different accents, different meanings for things. So, Viana, we would say Viana in Portuguese from Brazil. So,
No, it's Vienna, actually. Vienna is
Vienna.
in
No,
Austria,
Vienna.
but
Vienna. Vienna.
Vienna,
But it's a
Vienna,
A
yeah.
open. Open A. For us, it's Vienna.
Yeah.
It's like more. No, no.
Yeah, maybe you can do Vienna
Yeah.
a bit, Viana do Castelo. So many famous Brazilians are originally, or their ancestors come from my hometown. So if you ever visit, we have an historic museum and some of the statues to commemorate some of those Portuguese that went and lived in Brazil. And now it's the other way around. So as I mentioned, I was in Portugal, in my hometown on vacation, and now you hear
Portuguese.
Portuguese from Brazil all over because I think
Yeah,
there is reverse migration going on,
that's
and it's great, to see both cultures merging and
yeah.
living peacefully together. So that's really good.
So back to your city when you were a child. When was the first time that came to your life or to your mind about being an engineer? Was something that was discussed at home as you have to have to go to this kind of professions, or was the curiosity? Tell us about the story of you choosing
Was
engineering.
not at all like that. So I had no engineers in my family. Engineering was really not in the radar for me or anyone in my family. Actually, most of my family members, uncles and aunts, were not good at math. So
Oh,
we have people who are English teachers or literature, lawyers, these kind of professions, but no one actually went on that path. So it was a big surprise when, oh, she's good at math. What do we do with her now?
oh.
So, and so I was in year nine when I was 15, and I had very good grades in math and physics and so on. And I start wondering what I should do or not, and asking around, and everybody has an opinion, and which most people are like, oh yeah, I actually picked English quite young, so oh, you should be an English teacher like your cousin. Or my father was like, oh, why don't you become a nurse or a steward? Everybody had an idea, but none of it was interesting to me. And then it was actually one Sunday afternoon, we used to meet. I have a very big family back in Portugal, and we used to meet every Sunday, these big family gatherings. And I was watching TV, sitting close to my uncle, and he asked, so what grades do you have? And I said, oh, da, da, da. And he goes, wow, yeah. And he said, oh, so what are you going to do? I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll do English or something. And he goes, with those grades? And I said, yeah. So I said, have you considered engineering? I was like, huh, what? And he said, civil engineering. I was like, what's that, architecture? I didn't even know what it was.
Oh.
So that's how far it was from my radar. I was not exposed at all as a young girl to engineering. And but I did have a propensity for it. I remember as a kid, I liked to sit around the guys around construction sites, watching them, and I was more that sort of person. So when my uncle mentioned that, I was curious about it, and I started asking around. And I asked my teachers, I asked people, everybody was really surprised, like, why would you want to become a civil engineer? I did the psychological test with the careers officer, and she actually recommended me to work in aged care because of my personality, because I'm so such a vibrant person, be really good. And I was like, that's not what you tell a 15-year-old
That's
to
right.
go and work in aged care. So, and then I asked her actually, what about civil engineering? Do you think and she looked, and true story. Ah, that's for boys. That's what I was told. And fortunately, my mother and my father were very supportive. And when I said, well, I actually researched this civil engineering thing, and I quite like it. And yeah, I did. And then I was fascinated about it. And that's what I'm going to do. And they said, okay. And then, to my surprise, I was the only girl of the class for 3 years. And then this was high school, and then at university was always a minority. So it has been the story of my life. So it's been a bit of a lonely place to be as a young woman in engineering or engineering student, and that's something that I would love to see changing, and see the percentages of girls and women in engineering increasing. And that is the profession that is in the radar for young girls and young women, as it wasn't for me. And also that it is a career for women, so yeah, that's one of my big fights in life.
So, Carla, and also when you went through your studies, engineering studies, and being the minority, when you finished your studies, did you go and work straight away in the field, or you decide to continue your studies and jump into the master's degree? How was the transition for you?
Yeah, so when I was doing my undergrad, I did not have any intention of continuing studying. I wanted to start working, but those were the 90s in Portugal, and the preference was for male and boys. So I saw all my colleagues being offered jobs. Some of them had a lot worse grades than I had, and I even applied for jobs where I thought, no, we don't want women. And I said, why not? Oh, we had one before and she didn't do well. Things like that. So I've experienced a lot of sexism in this industry. And yeah, then I was offered an opportunity to go and study in Germany. I was offered a scholarship. I always loved traveling. And I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I thought I would be going for 2 years and then return to Portugal. But then in Germany, I experienced a lot less sexism. So engineering as a profession for a woman is socially accepted. I had a lot more female colleagues, and yeah, I was always offered opportunities abroad, so I decided to continue abroad. And the PhD, I was already working when I did my PhD. I did my PhD part time. Believe it or not, yes, it is possible.
It's possible. Yeah, that's right. So,
Yes.
and coming back to the point when you were a child and thinking about going to university, also, when was the moment that you thought you would live in a different place, different country, different city would be a possibility? Because living in Europe, it's much easier for you to go to city and visit everything, or even move to another city. So was something in your radar to move to another city? You had this desire, or was something that it came as an opportunity for you to be able to go?
So Portugal joined the European Union in 1986. So early 90s, which was when I was an engineering student at uni, wasn't very common, and particularly for a young woman to just go alone, live somewhere else, was
Mhm.
still early days. And so I always loved traveling, and even as a student, I was actually the president of the Board of European Students of Technology, which is an engineering student organization in Europe. So I was the president of the Porto local best group, and I had the opportunity to travel in Europe and attend summer courses in Sweden, in Spain, in Belgium through this organization. I love my country. I loved where I was. It was never my intention to permanently move. It was not. I see a lot of people now, they just pack, and unfortunately some leave for financial reasons, or I left for adventure, for opportunity. That was my story. And again, as I mentioned before, I thought I would be living for 2 years and then returning to Portugal, but it never happened. So I go there regularly. I used to go once a year. When I was in Europe, I used to go more frequently. But yeah, I'm still very connected to everyone back in my country. Yeah.
Yes, and so that's another point that I would like to ask you, because you have been a great ambassador for Portugal wherever you go, right? So you have been involved with communities and also receiving awards because you are very active participating. So tell us more about this kind of life that you have, giving back to the community wherever you go. You always connect with the Portuguese community.
Yes, that is fundamental for my well-being. And fortunately, my husband is German. He also enjoys Portuguese culture, and he has learned Portuguese. He's fluent also in the language. So, and of course, there is the food side of things.
Yes, that's right.
We
The,
know,
the
you
food.
know how it is, right?
Yes.
But yes, wherever I lived, I always made an effort to engage with the community, to meet the community leaders, to make new friends. For me, it's very important to keep my language. Actually, I have a story because for some time I was listening and talking Portuguese, but I wasn't reading much or writing. So one day I found myself really having to think of the words to write in Portuguese, and I nearly panicked. I was like, no, I cannot forget my own language. So I actually write something in Portuguese every day to make sure I keep the language, right? The written. So yeah, again, it's very important for me, and also to my children, so they know their roots. I've taken them to Portugal many times. Yeah, it's part of who I am. I will always be. So, and I like to pass it down as well to my
So
family.
back to your career in moving abroad. So would you share with us how was your transition to different countries, and if there was any moment that you felt that you had some roadblocks in front of you bigger than you expected? And when was that?
Look, now I look back, and when I first went to Germany, I spoke three words of German: Bitte, danke, and warum. And that's a crazy thing to do, to move to a country where you don't understand anything. So when I landed in Germany, the course I was doing was in English, but everything else was going to the supermarket. Everything was a completely foreign language.
Mhm.
So I felt like a kid again, 5 years old. Once I was nearly in tears because I grabbed the magazine and I could not read anything. I was just looking at the photos, at the images, like a kid, can't read. That's how I felt. But yeah, I enrolled in German classes. I had 8 hours of German class every week. So it's been a long way because it's a very different language than our language. But yeah, I can say I'm pretty good in German now. It's been many years. So definitely the language in any country is always a barrier. English was a lot easier. And in the case of Australia is English. There is of course slang, and the pronunciation at times can be difficult. When I first moved to Australia, I lived in Townsville, North Queensland. They have a very strong
It's
accent.
strong.
So it was like, what are you guys even talking about?
Yes.
But for example, I had to manage. I was working as senior engineer over there, and I had to manage the engineers and drafters and some maintenance people working on water and wastewater projects, and I couldn't fully understand. So, I started using photos in the meetings, and then they would explain what it was, and I was typing down, and then I got to learn what words they were using to
Oh,
name the thing. So, and they got used to it as well, to having photos to track the progress of the project. So, you use other tools other than verbal language to make yourself understood and to understand others. So, yeah.
so I imagine like going to a master's degree and not having the language and have to keep up with the academic part and also learning the language and the culture, a big thing for you at the time.
Yes, but I was not alone. And when I was doing this, it's called the WARM program, Water Resources Engineering and Management at the University of Stuttgart. We were a group of 30 international students. There were the German students as well.
Okay.
And we were very close. We were like we became our new family, and we supported a lot each other. We're still good friends even now. Actually, one of the international students is a Brazilian lady from São Paulo. We became best friends, and then I visited her over there. And when you have support, and yeah, we were all experiencing the same. We got through it, and we made many friends and became friends for life. So yeah, it was hard work. I used to say I don't even have time to cut my nails because
A priority that
we
time.
had we started with classes at 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. and then was just eating something, and then we had group work and teamwork and a lot of activities even after dinner time. So it was very intensive, but we've learned so much, and it has helped me professionally in ways I would never imagine. For example, every week we had to attend a seminar on Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. And it was about research topics that University of Stuttgart was focusing on. So it was all things I've never heard before, but just by attending that and without the need of
performing,
writing an exam, it was
yeah.
just presence, signing. Just by attending, that would count 1 or 2 credits for the course. So I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this. And for example, it was the first time I heard about carbon capture. It was the first time even climate change research, things that, we're talking about the 90s, things that only recently I've seen people talking about these things in the corporate world. And I've learned about these topics many years ago. So that has opened my eyes a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So, and you mentioned that when you were a teenager, talking about engineering was more civil engineering construction. What made you change to water?
It wasn't changed. So the way it works in Portugal, the degree of civil engineering is 5 years, and the first 4 is like general for everyone, and the 5th year is a specialization. I think now it has changed, but back then was like that. So in the 5th year, I chose hydraulics. That was always my passion. There were other options: structural engineering, construction, roads, planning. So yeah, that was what I specialized in. So I'm qualified as a hydropower engineer. I designed the wastewater treatment plant. I did a number of things in that space.
Okay. So, and then let's talk about now coming to Australia. Did you have your kids with you, or they were born here in Australia?
So
When
my daughter was 1 year old when we first moved. So she flew all over across the world in those little baskets that they give you on the plane. That's how we moved to Australia. So she was 1 year old, and then my son was already born here.
Okay. So, and you mentioned that you make sure that your kids understand where they come from, the roots. So, working both sides, German and Portuguese, right? So, how is the dynamic at home regarding which language do you speak?
We are trilingual, effectively.
Yeah.
So, my husband, he only speaks German with the kids. I'm a bit more, I speak Portuguese. Sometimes I do speak English to make sure I am clearly understood. You get it, guys?
I got it.
And English, of course, also counts in the equation. So they prefer to respond in English, but they also they fully understand both languages, and they can speak them. Of course, not like natives, but pretty good. And in school, my son is also learning French. He actually had 100% in all his tests in French. So I think that being trilingual has helped. He was also learning Chinese. My daughter has also learned Italian. So we do enjoy languages. Yeah.
Yes, because you yourself, you have Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, English, German, right?
Yes.
Tell me, six,
Yeah.
seven?
Yeah. About 6 languages.
Yes. So you can go anywhere and you feel safe that you can, at least you
Well,
are still.
it's a bit of cheating as well, because French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Italian, these 4 come from Latin roots. So once you understand the origin of the language, you can kind of pick it and pick up. Then English was relatively easy. German was the hardest, and yeah. So these are mostly European language. I would love to be able to speak Asian languages. I find them fascinating. Japanese, Mandarin, Korean, which I've haven't learned, or Indonesian. I haven't learned any of that. So I'm strong, definitely European languages, but not other languages.
Yeah, no, I did 3 years of Japanese and I was fascinated because I want to learn how to cook Japanese food, and I want to read the packages and everything, and I couldn't. But it was not only that, I was going to study in Japan as well. So I did 3 years. I cannot even remember much, but I can. I very fond. I have fond memories of learning it. So and then let's talk about this transition of working in big companies around the world, and as migrating to new companies, migrating to new countries with these companies too. What do you see as a barrier when you come to a new country, a new company, as a newbie in all sense? Like, there is any barrier, anything that you need to adapt, anything you need to pay attention to be able to understand and get more out of the experience that you are having?
Yes, so it's two different topics in there. So do you want to talk about starting a new job, or
Starting a new job,
moving to another country?
the two together.
Two together.
Let's
Yeah,
see, let's see
okay,
what
I guess.
found them.
Yes. Okay, moving to another job and another country depends really where you're going, what's your situation. Some people migrate already with contracts, some migrate without having a contract, which, I like to take risks, and I've taken risks in my life, but they were calculated risks. So I moved, when I migrated, I always had something already there waiting for me. So when I first went to Germany, I was already enrolled at university. Other countries, I already had jobs in there, or in Australia also. I was given at the time offered the 457 visa, which is a business sponsored. So I already had a contract and a job waiting for me.
Okay.
So yeah, calculated risks. I didn't come like, oh, let's see what happens,
Yeah.
as a lot of people do, right? So I did my homework, let's put it like that, before I went anywhere else. Yeah.
So in this case, even calculating the risk and knowing that you have a company behind you, supporting you moving, did you have any surprises?
Many.
Let's say, could you share any surprise?
And look,
Are you open for the next experience?
I'll tell you, for example, when I first moved to Australia, to Townsville, the manager with whom I've spoken for about 6 months, who lured me into moving to Australia and convinced me to leave everything and everyone behind. Actually, when I started, in my first week, he told me, I'm actually leaving the company. So I was like, you made me come all the way. I don't know anything or anyone else. You are the only person, and you're leaving. And so he left. So I had a feeling I was left alone to the wolves to find my way when he left. So, and fortunately, then I had 2 or 3 managers after that one in the same company, but I had a good team who was supporting me, and they enjoyed working with me. And then I built relationships with the new managers, and things happened. So that was, for example, one surprise. And other surprise I've had, people aren't always telling you the complete truth, not that they're lying, but for example, back then, the 457 visa, it reads very well as a business sponsored visa, but when I landed in Australia, actually that did not entitle me to Medicare. So I had to pay for private health insurance, which was a fortune. And it didn't also help with childcare rebates. So I was paying a fortune for childcare. So I actually went and talked to my manager. Oh, hello, you guys offered me a job and there's a contract, but I'm paying so much for insurance and childcare. And that's when the manager at the time that was reporting to, he understood my situation, and they said, okay. And so what we did, we prepared all the paperwork to apply for the regional sponsored migration scheme in Queensland, and within months I became permanent resident, right?
Yes.
So that was the thing, because the 457 visa wasn't as good as it looked like, for example.
Right. So things that we never anticipate to get, because when we, as you said, not everything is covered, and something the other side expect you to know, but they don't tell you, right? So
yeah, no, it was, yeah, those things happen, and you do your homework and you prepare, but still you can miss out on some relevant information. But yeah, those were things that happened, and then we sorted it out with a bit of paperwork, and but yeah, that was it. Most experiences have been very positive.
okay. So, and then you mentioned also that you migrated here because the company wanted you to come. So, having your husband and your child, how was the preparation and the conversation around this to move the family to a far, far away country?
Yes, my husband had a very good job in Germany. He worked in a company that he very much enjoyed. He had a great relationship with his manager. So it took about 6 months of convincing to move to Australia, you know. But yeah, a number of things have happened. And what happened was also that this company paid for our relocation, so including the flights, moving the furniture. Um, the first 6 months, the apartment where I stayed was covered by the company. So we were a bit like, oh, well, if it doesn't work and if we don't really like it, even if we have to pay back, we can always return. So what we did, we left things the best way we could with our friends, with our managers, with everyone. So if we needed to return, we 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 could easily get back into our previous lives. That's something we did, and that's something I do spend time on. Is also keeping my previous relationships and not only my friendships but also former work colleagues and so on. I always make an effort to keep in touch with everyone. So that's really key for us, because yeah, you never know what might happen, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, you are always also taking the time to connect with people and nurture this connection. So I have seen you doing networking and also helping people that come close to you to network, to develop their networks. So would you tell something to people that are watching you about your views?
Yes,
Importance of
because when you've been here for long and you've met people and you know how things work, without actually making a lot of effort, you can seriously help someone and improve someone's life. And we met through the Kaleidoscope program, where I was a mentor, and my mentee, who had been looking for a job for quite some time, a highly qualified engineer who was working as a night shift supervisor. I was able, through my contacts, to encourage him to apply to a role, which he got straight away, and is still very happy now working as a senior engineer. So it was much for me. It was really linking a
connect.
person I've just met, my mentee, with someone else. and let the magic happen, right? So it doesn't cost that much for us to help others, and it's very gratifying to be able to do that.
Okay. So at this point now in your life, you are working for the Fremantle Ports, another change.
Yes,
So,
yeah. So what happened in my career, I specialized in asset management, and asset management actually allows you to move from industry to industry without having to retrain. So it has been a very good field. So I started in this space, asset management in the water and wastewater industry, and then I moved to mining. I also worked in academia as a senior lecturer at Curtin University, also lecturing asset management. I worked in rail, and yeah, now ports. So also I'm currently the manager asset management with Fremantle Ports. So yeah, it's been really a good field to be in.
yes, and you are an example of what you say to my mentees or people that come to me, that you are not your job title. You are more than that. You have so many skills that when you know how to apply your skills in different fields, you can see the opportunities instead of being just narrowed down that you are the job title and you can have only that kind of jobs in
It's
front of you.
personality as well, right? I feel I'm always in this beginner's mode. I like to learn new things. I'm curious about new things.
Right.
I like to be in this state of mind, right? And while I understand that some people prefer to dig deeper and specialize and learn more about that topic, so it varies, and yeah, I think we're all different.
And also, you are a big advocate for women in the workforce. So, could you tell us more about the work that you do, having this support to women that want to be part of the workforce, and especially in areas that men, the majority, and women is still wanting to break that mold and be there as a big professional and show that they can contribute to?
Yeah. So for me, the lack of equality, gender equality, it makes me angry. It's something I seriously struggle with. I just do not accept, um, that women are paid less, have less opportunities. Uh, some feel they don't deserve what they have or get, or even imposter syndrome talk, that those kind of things. I don't believe for 1 second that men deserve more or better than any woman. So that's really something that is very strong in me, and I believe in financial independence of women. And we hear a lot about domestic violence and very terrible statistics in that space. So, I believe a woman's independence, a career is fundamental. So, yeah.
Okay. So, Carla, if you had to give advice or a suggestion to someone who is outside of Australia, wanting to come to Australia, and knowing that you have planned and assessed all the risks, what advice or suggestion would you give to someone with the idea of, I want to move to Australia?
Oh, come. It's a great country, lots of opportunities, particularly in the engineering space. You can do so many things, so many projects, so much innovation going on. Is a country that is really open arms to engineers. So that's definitely something that has kept us and keeps us. And my daughter is now studying engineering as well. So,
Ah.
and it's really a good space to be in. But if you're not an engineer, any other field, I think, you know, in Australia, I like to say Australians are forgiving, so and welcoming of other people from other backgrounds and other skills. So yeah, and I found it really easy to adapt here, not only because of the language, but I think people are welcoming and understand new migrants. So yeah, you know.
That's right. And also, if someone is here, a newcomer, who is struggling to find their feet in this land, what advice would you give to them?
Yes. So yeah, network, network, network. But I understand it's not everyone's um, interest. You know, some people feel really uncomfortable with meeting strangers or don't feel comfortable speaking in English initially. So yeah, so if you don't like to do it in person, do it virtually. I'm a big user of LinkedIn, and back to our conversation before, I've started using LinkedIn back in 2005 when we first migrated to keep all my connections in Europe, and also I've used it to make new connections. And most of my jobs lately, I've uh, found them or they found me via LinkedIn. So, you know, if you don't feel comfortable in person, to use the virtual tools available to get yourself and you know, enroll in programs like Kaleidoscope and other programs, and um, invest in your own network. You know, you never know where the opportunities are. And I've heard stories of people that was meeting someone in a supermarket that has led to opportunities, or a hairdresser, or you just never know where the next opportunity is.
That's right. So, Carla, here now in Australia, we have people from different backgrounds coming from different places around the world. And the Portuguese is here are very well settled and they have a big community. So, but I would like to ask you, is there anything that reminds you as a food that you had when you were a child that say, this is my hometown or my house or my childhood that you cannot find here in Australia?
Uh, a specific food.
Yeah.
Look, we eat a lot of fish and seafood in Portugal, and there is fish and seafood in Australia, but prepared and cooked in a different way. So cod fish is a big thing, bacalhau, right?
And twice.
And we can find it here, but certain ways of how it is prepared and so on.
Do you like
Yeah,
cooking?
that if I have time to be there cooking, I'm a slow cooker. And then my frustration is to find ingredients. So if I want to cook something that is traditional Portuguese, I have to drive around kilometers to find ingredients, which are never exactly the same. And then spend hours, and then in the end,
Not there. Not
it's
quite there. What you
not
want.
exactly the same. Even the salt is different, right? So sometimes it's too much effort for not a great result. So
So
yeah.
going back to Portugal, then there's the taste of
Oh,
childhood.
I eat a lot when I'm there. Funny enough, when I'm there, I eat a lot and I lose weight because the food is different. The rules in Europe are different. So certain things that are being sold here wouldn't even be allowed to be sold in the European Union. And in Portugal specifically, yeah, you can eat even fish for lunch and dinner for a week and no one will notice. While here we eat a lot more meat
Yes,
and pasta and things like that. So yeah.
that's right. So, and but what is your favorite food?
Of all,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have to
hard
choose
to
you one.
say.
Today is my day to eat what?
Uh, yeah, I have many favorite foods. So
Some
what's
of
this might shock some people because I know some people have never tried rabbit, but
the
I
rabbit.
do love rabbit.
Oh,
It's one of my favorite meats.
okay. So in Portugal, I know the Italian way of making a rabbit. I never had a recipe from Portugal. What is the difference between the two?
It's in the oven. It's marinated for a day with a lot of garlic. So
And
yeah,
wine as well? White wine or no? Or just
white wine as well. Yeah.
oil?
So,
Yeah.
but I understand some people might be shocked with the idea of eating rabbit, but yeah.
Yeah, delicious. I must agree with you. I quite like them. So, Carla, a big pleasure chatting with you and getting to know your life career journey, moving to different countries and also having different abilities and skills and your connection with your community. So, well done. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Simon.
Thank you. So for you, have you watched this episode? So remember to give us a like and subscribe. And if you want to leave your comments, please welcome. So see you next. Bye-bye.